All right. So I don't know if a lot of you guys have sort of paid attention to this Dave Rubin situation, but sort of been going back and forth with him a lot recently. And he did this Ask Me Anything on Reddit on the classical liberal subreddit page. And I found it so so bemusing, so interesting, so just breathtaking at so many different points that I had to just bring someone on. I have this guy, Daniel here, who's a Twitter follower of mine, who's also not a huge Rubin fan.
That's an understatement.
Yeah, and what we're going to do is we're just going to sort of go question by question down the Dave Rubin Reddit. I'm not going to like mirror my screen, right? I don't know how to do that. So we're just going to we're going to sort of read the question a little bit and just, we're going to go through them from if you set the Reddit settings from the top question, if you want to pull that up when you're watching this, but so you can sort of follow along a little better. But we're going to go from the top question down until we're just sort of demoralized with the stupidity and banality of what we're reading, and we just kill ourselves.
Fuck that might not take very long.
It's true, but we'll see how far we get. With it's this.
It should be entertaining.
Yeah, exactly. So the first question, this person's asking him about fake news and why why he compares the CNN and the New York Times and Washington Post on one hand and BuzzFeed or whatever to the fake worst news. Of the worst alt-right complete fabrication news, and why, and his defense of it is, I mean, you got a typo for one thing. Doesn't know what it's all about. But he defends Alex Jones, and he said, well, I just went on there to sort of get the audience of the Alex Jones program and talk about my side of the story. But he's completely unwilling to actually grapple with just, can you evaluate each different source of news on its own? And it's so pathetic, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's just being dishonest here. I mean, because Alex Jones is infamous for, the Sandy Hook incident where he, was harassing people saying that it was a whole hoax to take away guns. And, he can't pretend to not know about any of that.
Well, it's one of those things where I find what he does, he talks about these broad categories. Like he'll talk about left-wing journalism. And the
activists disguised as, journalists is what he likes to say.
And you know what? I would also say you can't just talk about even institutions, because the New York Times, it has so many different facets to it, right? You have op-eds, and they publish op-eds that are real dumb. I think everyone can agree on that. There are really dumb op-eds in the New York Times, right?
Yeah.
Whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, there are really dumb right-wing op-eds and there's really dumb left-wing op-eds. And I think it's actually you kind of don't want to necessarily say that you can have dumb people who have bad opinions and you can publish them and people can sort of go back and forth about them. But what the New York Times doesn't do is they don't publish, stuff about
9/11 triggers,
chemtrails and UFOs and
9/11.
When they make a mistake in their news reporting, they correct it basically. And they're not perfect. There's no journalist, there's no organization that's perfect. And they do have journalists at the New York Times. Every publication has journalists, if they're big enough, that I don't like.
Yeah, I mean, that's just how it is for every. That's how it is for every.
And there are journalists on the left. There's Louise Mensch. There's Salon.
Oh God.
There's a lot of really crappy left-wing sources. So the way he talks about it, where it's like, these broad strokes, it's so illiterate and so it's dumb.
I mean, I don't know, but to be fair, the jury's kind of out on Louise Mensch being left wing.
Oh yeah, but she's whatever.
I've heard people say
she's anti-Trump. She's anti-Trump. So
okay, yeah.
So he's pro-Trump. So he's like against her. But the next part of this answer, he says, "Well, I think Trump's presidency has been basically fine, but it's impossible to grade because of the nonstop hysteria. Which
Jesus.
That doesn't make any sense at all. Because just think about it. Just because some people are not analyzing Trump in a thoughtful, fact-based way, which is true, there are people on the left who are hysterical about Trump. I kind of understand it, but I try not to be hysterical, but I can still look at the facts and come to my own conclusion. It's not like the fact that there's a few people who are nuts like takes away your ability to think about it or look at the facts. Like, just evaluate all of the facts and come to your own opinion. Like, you're fucking paid $30,000 a month to do that.
Well, the problem is a lot of that $30,000 is coming from the pro-Trump people. So,
yeah. So, but he's not taking responsibility. If you want to be pro-Trump, be pro-Trump. But don't give me this weak bullshit of it's impossible for me to think about. If the fact that CNN is not doing a great job makes your brain just become mush, you're not good at your job. Like, someone else being biased does not, incapacitate you.
Yeah, I mean, are we supposed to run to the chemtrail 9/11 was a hoax people now, or?
Yeah, I mean, it's the both sides fallacy right here. It's just because there's people on the left who are dumb doesn't mean that it validates Alex Jones, and it means you can also just compare what is the quality of reporting at CNN versus InfoWars. And if you think that those are equivalent, I mean, like, there's no point in talking to you. You're bonkos. You're straight up bonkos.
I don't know if it's just bonkos. I just think I think TJ Kirk kind of answered a question that somebody sent him in one of those, ask apps or whatever. And basically,
who's TJ Kirk?
The Amazing Atheist. He has a YouTube channel.
Oh my! That guy. The guy's dumb.
Yeah, but even he was like, so the guy was like, well, I can't remember what the question was. It was something to the extent of, why won't Sargon and Dave Rubin, call out Trump? And then he said, well, it's because they don't want to insult the Trump snowflakes in their audience.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't let them off the hook for that,
Yeah.
So the next question we got, someone asks about why he didn't challenge or question David Horowitz when he said Obama is a communist.
Oh, Jesus.
I mean, I think anyone could see that Obama's not a communist. He was president of the United States, and he was a center-left politician. He was basically similar to,
Bill Clinton,
or what John Kerry would have done, or Hillary Clinton would have done. He wasn't. The idea that he's a communist, I don't know where people are getting that. He didn't try to. It's a ridiculous comment. And Dave said, and Dave actually, I didn't watch that interview because I find David Horowitz to be a nutcase.
Horrible.
Yeah, he's David Horriblewitz. So
yeah, he used to be. What's kind of interesting about that guy is that he's comes from another extreme. Apparently, he used to be a hardcore Stalinist.
Right. Well, I guess he was a Dave Rubin of the 1970s, where he sort of, although he's a little more honest about the fact that he's actually changed his beliefs, but he sort of rose to prominence by saying, I was part of this awful leftist movement. And the truth is, well, it's like, just because you were a Stalinist in the 1960s doesn't mean that was the mainstream position. You've just gone from being an awful far left person to an awful far right person, and maybe the common denominator is you. You're just awful. And that's why you sort of gravitate to, just mean, stupid bullshit. But I digress. So this is sort of defending his dumb interview style. And I almost don't, I don't mind someone being bad at interviewing or doing interviewing the way I wouldn't do interviewing that way. But the problem with Dave's interview style that nobody sort of brings up to him is that it's fine if you do softballs, but you get the people who are really smart and really informed, and you think you curate just the best of the best people and you let them talk. I think that would be fine, but he doesn't do that. He curates kind of a bunch of morons and hacks, and he gives them an uncontested audience. And that's
like why are we supposed to listen to Steven fucking Crowder talk about climate change?
I mean, a lot of his guests who he holds up as these great intellectuals, they're talk radio blowhards who just have the same Rush Limbaugh talking points, but they're doing it with a new generation. Oh, I'm doing a skit where I'm putting on, you know, underwear and lipstick, and you're like, dude, you're probably just gay.
Yeah.
But I mean, Steven Crowder, you listen to a few of his like big rants where he tries to get up on his high horse about his huge knowledge of some issue. And if you have a cursory knowledge of it, from climate change to net neutrality, the guy is just a dimwit. And
yeah.
Only these dumb, you know, internet nerd kids who know nothing actually find Ben Shapiro. And I mean, like, Ben Shapiro's a smart guy. He's a good debater, but all of his content is just exactly what you'd find from Mark Levin or Glenn Beck or Rush Limbaugh. It's the same bullshit Republican talking points.
I did like watching his meltdown on Twitter when some guy called him out on religion, because they were talking about Chelsea Manning or something to that extent, and basically he misgendered her or something like that. And so he's like, well, I can't remember how the whole exchange went, but he said something to the extent of, well, this guy calls him out, and he's like, well, as a leftist, you believe that, because the guy said something to the extent of, you mean, because he's like, how, you know, the left is deluded about gender. And he's like, and the guy said, well, you know how you believe that a magic man in the sky cares what you do naked. And Ben Shapiro just exploded. And he's like, well, you think that a man can magically become a woman. And it was awful.
That's a little bit interesting. Yeah. So next question. So this guy asks him why you said you'd hold Trump's feet to the fire, and you haven't done that at all. It's kind of a similar question to the last one. And Rubin's excuse is, this is a total excuse. Well, hundreds of outlets are dedicated to attacking Trump 24/7. I didn't vote for him. I brought people from left and the right, and I'm just trying to focus on postmodernism and the left, which is a greater danger to Western civilization. I mean,
wow.
Okay. I mean, the first sentence, there's other people who are attacking Trump, so I don't have to do it. Well, just the obvious thing comes to mind. There's tons of people who are attacking the left, and you're doing that. So,
wow. That's kind of an interesting excuse, because he doesn't even think that most of that criticism's accurate. He's always bitching that, you know, BBC and CNN are fake news and out to get Trump, you know?
Yeah, well, this is just an example. This guy is so stupid, and he skates on the surface of all these issues without actually using any details or any specifics. So is the New York Times attacking Trump, or is the New York Times just reporting news? You know, are they doing evil anonymous sources, or are they using anonymous sources to report stories which turn out to be accurate because they're actually the best newspaper in the United States when it comes to, you know, sourcing and journalistic standards? And
yeah,
I mean, I don't like the New York Times political coverage a lot of the time. I think it's kind of unfair against Democrats a lot of times, but they're the best newspaper in the United States in terms of breadth of coverage. And if you look at the accuracy of what they say, they're pretty damn good. You know, they're at the top of their game. And Fox News, they're not at the top of their game. They're propaganda. So if
journalistic standards do not exist at Fox News.
No. I mean, so like, don't just talk to me about the mainstream media. Talk about the times where you looked at the New York Times and you said, hey, this story is inaccurate. This Trump story you did, it was just made up. And you can't find those things. So he skates on this sort of pablum he gets fed from right wingers. But the idea that he's parroting so much stuff on the right wing that he has to actually critically engage with the truth and take credit or take a side, you know, either be pro-Trump or anti-Trump, or
have a spine,
or explain what your opinion on Trump is. Besides, I'm not going to take a position because the mainstream media is stupid. But that doesn't make any sense. If you buy that, I mean, you're just going to accept any kind of excuse for anything.
Yeah.
And then, the postmodernism stuff. It's one word for one thing.
It's bullshit.
Well,
it's such a boogeyman.
You know, I think there is a problem with the campus left. And it is, I think it's confined to a few institutions. a few elite institutions and a few
Yale,
a few parts of those elite institutions. If you went to the econ department at Yale and you started talking, you would get your ass kicked and people would make fun of you and they'd like stuff you in a locker if you started talking about pulling out postmodernist crap, right? If you went to the math department and you were like, I'm being oppressed by numbers and give me an A, they would just laugh at you. And it's not like there's like a bunch of hippie kids at
it's really
Yale who are just like running the school with an iron fist.
It's usually just like sociology majors and shit like that.
Like most of the kids who are going to Yale are, centrist rich kids who go to Yale and then they're going straight to Goldman Sachs and they're not into campus left crap. And I think people like Dave Rubin and Sam Harris and some of these people they're sort of buy into the right wing spin about this stuff because they haven't been to a college and in a long
forever.
Yeah, they're kind of older guys. I mean, are you in college at the moment? Or are you?
Yeah, I'm still in college, and it's calm, quiet college. People disagree with each other all the time.
Yeah, and you're not at Oberlin or Evergreen State, but that's most colleges in America are not Oberlin or Evergreen State. Most colleges are University of Colorado, University of Arizona. They're big state colleges that are not in these liberal bastions, and they range from being very conservative, and also a lot of very conservative colleges are not super pro free speech and all that.
Liberty.
Try to go to BYU and start talking about transgender rights. You're not going to have a great time. So
that brings to mind a story from Liberty University where I think the news leaked or something like that Jerry Falwell Jr. basically cracked the whip on the school newspaper for publishing bad things about Trump or something to that extent.
Yeah, well, these Christian colleges, people say, well, they're not supposed to be pro free speech. But you're only applying your standards to one side, and you're attacking them, and you're sort of creating this unbalanced narrative about the world that it fools a lot of people, but it's real crap. So his next question we got,
Egg Boy.
Yeah, so he's basically asking, well, I guess his answer doesn't. I'm confused by this question and this answer. But Dave's answer is, I only block true endless haters. Trolls are usually fun. And I guess Dave definitely does like trolls who send people gas chamber memes. He likes those trolls for sure. He defends those. He said, like, I like the alt-right. I don't totally like their ideas, but I like their great sense of humor, and they're sort of bringing back comedy in America. And
it's just a meme, bro.
Just a meme, bro. I don't know if there's any justification for sending a Jewish person a gas chamber meme. And I got those during the election. I don't find it funny. And I think
you shouldn't. You shouldn't. You're a decent person.
I think just abusing people, harassing people online and being mean to them, it's kind of wrong. Like, maybe I've done it too. And I'll think of tweets in my head and I'll be like, that's too mean. I don't want to be so personal about somebody, make fun of their appearance or whatever. And maybe sometimes I do, but it's not good. And just saying you're a troll and making a lot of these people who are trolls, they're actually kind of serious in what they're saying. And the fact is, Dave absolutely blocks anyone who has any sort of followers and criticizes him in a reply tweet. Isn't that true? Like, I think it's pretty much established.
Yeah.
So that's not true. I mean, I understand he blocked me because I would just dunk on him every day, but I am too much. I am too obsessed with Dave Rubin, and he's just one of those people who
he's just fun to shit on. I mean,
there are some people who just everything about them just pisses you off, and they're just like they're your bête noire. There's the person who just annoys you the most, and everything about them is so insipid, just pushes your buttons. Everyone has that like one writer or film director or musician who just pisses them off, whether it's Nickelback or
God.
Yeah, Kevin Smith's movies are one that pisses me the hell off. But you know, that's I don't know. Maybe I should leave off of him a little bit too. I mean, but it is. I am too obsessed. Well, I'll admit to that.
The question also addresses something interesting too, where he asked, you know, you say you're in favor of a news center, but your news center always has people from the fringe far right. You know, Cernovich, Shapiro. Well, Shapiro's not that, but obviously, but
I think I think Shapiro's far right. I mean, if you
he is, but not Cernovich far right.
He's not radical crazy. He's like establishment far right, which is a big thing in America right now. But
yeah, your standard Ted Cruz Republican.
Yeah. So next question we got, sort of a repeat of another one, but why do you hate Vox and BuzzFeed? People talk about Vox and BuzzFeed being bad, and I don't think they're up to the same editorial standards as the Washington Post, because they will let things slip through. And I guess BuzzFeed is like, they're half a news organization, and then the half is like the top 10 cotton candy things, and you know what Disney princess are you? It's like, what, you know.
It's just clickbait. BuzzFeed's just clickbait. I mean, that's all it is.
But just... they also have news reporters, and then they also have like, you know, burrito gifts. And it's like, okay.
Yeah, I don't understand how that works.
Why would you want to read an article about burrito gifts? I don't understand that. What is the value of that? But I guess it pays the bills for their news gathering side. And they do have reporters who work there. And if there's one reporter who does good work at a news organization, even if it's a crappy organization in general, I'll look at their stories and read them, and I don't have a problem with that personally.
Yeah, this kind of brings to mind, even though this is total sidebar, because Vox kind of BuzzFeed kind of reminds me of Vice, where Vice used to do really good news reporting. They used to have like those, you know, documentaries in war zones, you know, what's going on in Lebanon, Syria, etc. And then, but now I just looked today where it was just like this dude wrote an article, was like, I, you know, checked out vaginas in this office for 3 hours or something. And I just thought, or Anthony posted it to me, and I was like, wow.
Well, I mean, vaginas are, you know, newsworthy. I don't want to be say anything about that. But, you know, Vox does have a lot of great writers, or a lot of writers who I think have great takes on politics. And I guess part of, like, since I've like used Twitter more so, a lot of what I tend to do is I follow specific writers, and I challenge you to find a writer at Breitbart or InfoWars who is not crazy and does good reporting and is willing to criticize Trump and be honest. And I don't think they exist, honestly. They don't. Maybe there's someone at Breitbart who's less crazy, maybe, but almost
not really.
It's not InfoWars, right? There's levels to all this stuff. It's not InfoWars, but you have to be able to criticize InfoWars because literally all of their employees,
crazy people. Huh.
It's conspiracy theory bullshit, and Vox is not conspiracy theory bullshit. They have editorial standards. It's not remotely similar.
Yeah, I mean, you have people like, obviously we've gotten into the funny examples like the chemtrails and shit like that, but then you also had like more extreme examples where Alex Jones basically said that, you know, Bernie supporters should have their jaws broken. And
yeah,
I mean,
just the fact that the mainstream media attacks Breitbart and InfoWars does not take you off the hook for supporting them. Because if you looked at Dave Rubin's Twitter account and his show, you would basically think that he liked InfoWars. And
Which I think he does.
He must. I mean, he's not disabusing you of that notion. And if he's saying that they're the same as Vox, he's kind of saying they're pretty good, in my opinion. They should be treated on par with the mainstream media. And if you think that, you're insane. Like, sorry, dude, you're insane. Okay, but next question he actually answered. I see somebody didn't get an answer at all. Like, will you debate Sam Cedar? So I understand he's not going to answer that because he's a poltroon. He's a coward, a yellow-bellied coward. But okay,
Dave Rubin's scared shitless of Sam Cedar.
Oh yeah, Sam Cedar would just. I'm not a huge Sam Cedar fan. I don't agree with that on every issue, but Sam Cedar would just destroy him completely. Okay, and that's why he's not debating him. So, question is, why does Rubin call himself a liberal rather than a libertarian? And he doesn't know jack shit about political ideology. And he talks about it so incessantly. Like, if he just read the liberalism, libertarianism, classical liberalism Wikipedia article, he would know almost, basically, it would refute all of his ideas about political ideology. It's kind of crazy. He talks about being a political science major. I don't know what courses did he take in his political science major, because it seems like zero. Because don't you cover like liberalism, classical liberalism? You know,
yeah, you actually have to take
a political theory class of some sort.
Yeah, that's like, for my degree, I have to take a political theory class, and then for one of the options that you can take is for one of the upper level courses, you can also take a a political parties class. So, I mean, there's
if you're an American political science graduate, I assume you've read Adam Smith and Marx and the American like political thinkers of the 19th and 20th century who were influential. But so his whole thing at the end of this, he says the difference between a classical liberal and a libertarian is that basically a classical liberal is a little bit more okay with the state, and that's not true. I don't know where he got that idea. I mean, just to clarify it, a classical liberal is a type of libertarian. It's someone who believes in the sort of, property rights,
free market capital.
Yeah, they believe in the 19th century view of liberalism advanced by, the
Smith, John Locke.
Yeah, and it's basically a Republican, or not quite, a conservative in the turn of the century America would be a classical liberal.
Yeah,
someone who wants a limited government, who wants. So it's a type of libertarian. A libertarian is a broader category, which includes people who they're not coming from a classical liberal point of view. They're coming from a anarchist point of view, or
yes,
a different spin on the grounding of their view of small government. So he's not smart enough to understand this, I assume, or he's just unwilling to. He found a sort of stupid way to frame stuff that's valuable to him in his show. But it's so insulting, because what he does is he conflates being a classical liberal with being a liberal in the U.S. context, and obviously those are different, because liberal means on the left. That means JFK, FDR in the American context. So it's just he confuses himself and tries to throw that out there. So next question. You want to say something?
No, actually, that should probably that's actually what I was going to say ties into this next question. So let's go ahead.
Yeah. So this one is just, oh my God, so beautiful.
Oh God.
I was wondering how you came to the conclusion that Martin Luther King Jr. would be a conservative today. And Rubin quotes the famous MLK line, I have a dream that my son will be treated by the content of his character, not the color of his skin, et cetera, et cetera. And that's a conservative or classical liberal position by today's standards. And progressivism and leftism judges as a collective based on skin color and sexuality and religion. He never would have wanted that. So this is, it's horseshit.
Wow.
It's horseshit. It's complete horseshit.
Well, for one, he dodges the democratic socialism part entirely.
Okay, well, we can talk about MLK's ideology, and it was kind of he was on the left of politics. He was. You can argue about exactly where he would have fallen and what his language would have meant, because he was a very practical guy. He was willing to work with centrist Democrats and centrist Republicans to get the Civil Rights Act passed. He wasn't a wide-eyed, idealistic left-winger completely. He was on the left, but he was willing to work within the system. but he was definitely not a classical liberal, because when he was killed in 1968, he was in Memphis for
a labor union,
the sanitation workers strike there. The guy,
labor union strike.
Yeah. The guy was talking about economic issues as a huge, the next struggle he was engaged in. He was definitely on the left. So to take one of his words out of context and then attach it to this total canard about the left being, about judging people based on skin color. And so I find that to be complete garbage, because it's true there are some people on the left who are too quick to turn everything into a racial issue when it's not quite warranted. But that's also true on the right, because the right wing has probably more investment in identity politics. Everything Trump, the whole Trump movement is all about white identity politics. It's about, I don't want my country to become, infected by immigrants and Muslims and foreign trade. Yeah. I sort of wanted this insular sort of culture that reflects me. So the idea that identity politics is part and parcel of everyone who is center left or as a Democrat, it's complete garbage. I mean, if you watch Obama's speech from 2004 and you listen to Obama's rhetoric about this stuff, he's not buying into the most far extreme campus leftism, and neither was Hillary Clinton, neither was Bernie Sanders. This is just strawmanning liberals by the most extreme leftist position you could possibly find, which is totally unfair. It would be totally unfair if Democrats talked about Republicans based on what Richard Spencer said. Yeah. It'd be totally unfair. And that's all Rubin's doing. He's like repeating Milo talking points about the left, which, I mean, it's garbage.
Milo's arguably the one that convinced him to sell out, really.
Yeah, well, if you actually listen to Dave Rubin and you've listened to some of these guests he's had on, a lot of what he said is just repeating verbatim their talking points. Okay, so the next question, does he even answer this shit?
He basically just deflects the question.
Yeah, so it's asking about the whole gay cake baker situation. And I mean, I sort of understand the libertarian perspective on this a little bit. I think you could possibly argue for some sort of an exception for people who have like an expressive speech element of their job. Like if someone is a singer and you want to hire them for your wedding or event and they don't agree with you, I could sort of see them not wanting to associate themselves. But if you're providing a service, like you're selling people baked goods, or you have a hotel, or you have a grocery store, I think the idea that it's a common sense notion that you should have a social norm that everyone, regardless of their sexual orientation, race, etc., get service. And I think it's also sort of a straw man argument against the left to take the hardest case and talk about that instead of talk about, if you get rid of anti-discrimination laws, you're going to hurt a lot of people and you're going to create some of these social norms that are very negative. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I think it's kind of funny that he talks about one of his few arguments for his being on the left is that he's pro-gay rights. And one of his big talking points, one of his big, policy issues he's concerned about is Christian cake bakers being oppressed by gay people, which certainly does not seem like a very big issue in America.
Yeah.
So, heck of a job being a gay rights advocate, Dave. Heck of a job.
Yeah. No, not really. No.
Yeah. Didn't speak out about Gorsuch. Hasn't spoken out about anything Trump has done when it comes to gay rights. But yeah, he's gay, so that gives him all the credit in the world of being on the left.
He dodges Amber Atticus's question.
Oh.
She's the one that's Enlightenment Liberal on Twitter. She asked a pretty interesting question, and of course he just dodges it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. he doesn't. I mean, he's not really able to sort of think of a hypothetical question and analyze it off the cuff. He doesn't really have the brain cells to rub together to do that.
Because she raises an interesting question where he directly, right after Cernovich's date rape tweets, Rubin just says, "Oh, you've ruffled some feathers. Come on my show."
Yeah, I wonder if he would apply the same standard to left-wing people who ruffle feathers with dumb tweets. They're just unthinkably stupid and awful. So the next question here, another Trump question. Why haven't you held his feet to the fire? Getting a theme here. And he says, what has he done that's indefensible?
I can list several things.
Well, I mean, obviously I could talk about this for 30 minutes. I could scream at the top of my lungs about it. But it's easy to ask questions like that. But I guess he's just saying, I don't think he's done anything bad. And I guess it doesn't really require any engagement with what he said. But where is the sort of elaboration about why you think he's been good, or why you think he has some bad points, he has some good points, talk about the positive, mention some details. It's just so weak. He isn't able to take a stand.
Yes.
Okay, so we got this, the question we were sort of skipping around here. So this question, I'd love to see Dave invite some sort of, maybe one of the Chapo Trap House people on the show who are, say stuff that's provocative and funny and, are kind of mean people on Twitter. He wouldn't do that, would he?
No.
So, but he will have, and he's tweeted positive things at Cernovich since his interview, and he's never criticized him. He never there's something about Dave where whenever he's talking about somebody on the right, he loses his ability to think about it. I'm sorry, I can't come to an opinion. I'm just open-minded, and I'm just like a newborn baby from I'm a Martian who just came to Earth, and I don't know anything. I don't know anything. But then suddenly, when he talks to somebody on the left or criticizes the left, he actually is able to have an opinion. So what's the difference, Dave? If you're talking about someone on the left, you can talk about how they're destroying Western civilization. But when it comes to Mike Cernovich, you're unable to render any sort of opinion. You're able to come up to a completely broad brush opinion of an entire political ideology when you're talking about one side. And then the other side, someone can come to you and be like, what's your opinion of this specific guy? And you're able to be like, well, I have no ability to look at the facts or think critically. Well, either you do or you don't. And if you don't, just quit. You should get a neurological exam. Your job is doing that, right?
I mean, how can you not form an opinion about somebody who thinks that rape isn't even a thing?
Yeah, we said date rape isn't a thing.
Or date rape isn't a thing.
Yeah. And Mike Cernovich, you read the guy. He's a complete huckster. He sells these all these right-wing idiots sell. Joe Rogan does this too. They sell dumb boner pills and brain pills and all this different stuff.
Male vitality,
all this bullshit. I'll tell you what, if there was a magical pill that made you smart and, increased your male vitality, that would be in common use. The fact that if there was a pill that made you smart, everyone would be taking it, right? Yep. So if you ginkgo biloba and a bunch of whatever, it's not going to make you intelligent. Sorry. It's not giving Alex Jones $65 for a pill of a bottle of pills is not going to work out so well for you, dude. You had better hope that there's nothing in there. You better hope it's not strychnine. Okay, so then someone's asking about his Cenk Uygur tweets.
Cenk Uygur was kind of silent during the Nice attack. This was way back. I think it was the man from Tunisia that rammed the truck into a bunch of people, and then
oh my god, it's just such a terrible. I've been to Nice, and it's just having walked down there. It's just so gotta think about it. But so Dave tweeted at Cenk Uygur and said, "Are you angry about this? And
are you for it or against it?
Are you against this?" And like, what a douchebag thing to say. Like, of course he is against it, you idiot. The guy's like, isn't Cenk? He's like, he's an atheist, right?
Yes.
He's an atheist and he's a liberal, and of course he's not in favor of people being run over who are innocent. What the fuck is, like, who could possibly say something so offensive? Like, if someone said that to me, I just want to punch them in the face, honestly. Like, what a douchebag thing to say.
It was just him flapping his wings for the crowd.
Yeah, but like, I would, it's like, oh, it's in poor taste. Like, apologize more than that. And like, think about your life if you're going to say something like that. Like, anyone who's actually experienced a terrorist attack, or a shooting or a murder, they're like, don't be so stupid to say that. This is like serious shit. Right. So, and.
All right. Next one is, you continue to brand yourself as a liberal, yet you seem to endorse Paul Ryan and Rand Paul as close to your worldview and conceded that classical liberalism is closer to American conservatism. So basically, why isn't he going to come out as center right of the spectrum? And instead, he says,
well, it's a funny point.
Ryan and
it was a funny point he brings up here. I only get invited to colleges by conservatives and libertarians. Does anyone know? Do you know why that's true?
Because he panders to conservatives?
That's part of it. It's part of it, the fact that everything he says is conservative, but college liberal organizations do not get free money from billionaires to invite college speakers. They have to scrounge together the money from their college, whatever, speakers bureau or whatever foundation from their college. But if you're like the Young Americans for Liberty or the Campus Republicans, and you want to get like a libertarian speaker, the Koch brothers will pay to have, they'll pay the speaker for you, and they'll come to your college and they'll sort of do this indoctrination speech, and you'll sort of, that's the way that's part of Rubin's income stream here, is that he gets paid by the Koch brothers to come to the college Ayn Rand club and talk about liberalism and talk about why the left sucks. And there's I don't think college left-wing organizations want to hear about how the left sucks, for one thing, but they certainly don't have a lot of money to pay Dave Rubin's plane fare and give him an honorarium to speak. And I mean, it's so sort of disingenuous for him to say that, but. And if you like Paul Ryan and Rand Paul,
say you're right wing.
You're on the right. Sorry, dude. They have right wing policies. There's a reason that they're Republicans. There's a reason that the rights of the individual. And it's another thing. It's like, if you think the rights of the individual are not affected by the market economy, and that your access to healthcare, your economic ability to pay for your college and pay for your healthcare, pay for your rent, of course, like that's a right-wing position, to think that we should just let people, have no safety net, and we shouldn't do anything to level the playing field or regulate business so business doesn't exploit people, right? Like, that's a right-wing position. It's not to say I think I'm pro-individual, because I think individuals should be protected from exploitation by big business. And that's always been the liberal position. That's been the position of Obama and JFK and LBJ, FDR. That's always been the liberal position. And so Dave, it's such a canard he brings that up.
All right. The very next question that he answers is, this is
a long ass question.
Not really. I don't have the motivation to read it all.
Okay. So basically the question is, well, his answer and the question seem like they're kind of at odds. But
the guy's basically saying, you've had all these right-wingers, Larry Elder, Ben Shapiro, Yaron Brook, Austin Peterson, Horowitz, and he basically starts saying, these are all the things they've said about Obama.
Yeah. Like, why haven't you pushed back against these people's beliefs and sort of pushed against the borders of what they say, bring up counter arguments, bring up what their critics would say, and sort of have a conversation based on your knowledge and your research about the person and the subject matter that they're an expert in, right? So, like, if you or I were doing an interview, we were hired to do our own Dave Rubin kind of show, and we said we had to interview Alex Epstein, who's a climate change denialist. We would do a bunch of research on climate change. We'd find everyone who is on the other side of the argument, and we'd look up other interviews of him where he's been challenged, and we would ask tough questions so we could hear what his response is even to the tough questions, and sort of probe deeply in what the guy thinks. And what Rubin says is people aren't idiots and they can do their own research. I can sort of give a megaphone to this person and they can put out their
propaganda,
and the people can make up their own minds. And to me, I mean, it's an abdication of your job. It's saying you don't care about doing your job, but it's at the same time, I think a lot of people are going to be misled by the content you're putting out there. What you're putting out there is not bringing people to a better understanding of the issue. If you bring on, Alex Epstein, who's basically a lobbyist for the oil and gas industry, he's not going to increase your knowledge about the issue. He's actually going to decrease it by putting out a lot of fake stuff about climate change. And if your service is, well, you can actually undo the damage from my interview by doing your own research, and I'll give them enough rope to hang themselves. Well, no, actually, like, ask them tough questions. Like,
David
why
Pakman
not?
is way better.
Yeah, well, why not? Why not try? Like, this seems like basically an excuse for being lazy and not doing research. Like, what does he do all day to actually,
watch Star Wars? Star Wars, probably.
Like, what is the research process for him? What is the keeping up with the news process? Because it's like I don't have to keep up with the news because New York Times posted did a bad op-ed once. It's all just an excuse to be lazy and dumb, as far as I'm concerned. If you say I'm going to hope that the person I give them all these softball questions and they accidentally incriminate themselves and give the worst possible interpretation of themselves.
No,
maybe that might happen, but you're giving them every chance to say whatever they want. And I mean, the fact of the matter is almost all of his guests are either right-wingers, crazy extremist right-wingers, or people who are on the left who are criticizing the left in kind of an honest or maybe slightly dishonest way like him. So, okay, next question we got here.
MLK conservative thing.
Oh, I'm seeing the question about people who criticized the Obama administration and said, all these, all their, attacks about how Obama would lead to total economic disaster, hyperinflation. Austin Peterson, Glenn Beck, all have said that. All these Rand Paul right wingers
got it wrong, big time.
Yeah. They all said that Obama would destroy the economy. It's funny that everyone thinks that Obama destroyed the economy last year. They said the unemployment rate was actually 40% or 20%, and things were really bad. And then once Trump became president and the economy didn't get at all better, suddenly we decided that the economy is actually good. And
even though it already was.
Rubin talks about this. I'll be like, well, the economy is doing well, so we can't really criticize Trump. Well, how do you credit Obama with the economy going well? If you're going to credit a president, credit the president who's been president the last, in the most recent times that have led up to what's happening now. It's pretty hard to destroy the economy in a few months, unless you're purposely trying to do it. But,
yeah.
Okay, next question here. Why do you give? It's like these ones are all pretty similar. Why do you give a megaphone to people without any sort of pushback? Aren't you sort of a right winger? So he says, I voted Republican once for Michael Bloomberg, who was really a Democrat. I'm pro-gay marriage, pro-choice.
Oh, God. That banter.
Against always. Nation building. Yeah. Nation building. The thing is, all those things do not necessarily conflict with being more on the right. If you're a libertarian, generally you're going to be pro-gay marriage, anti-war, pro-choice, pro-euthanasia, pro-legalizing weed. I mean, have you heard? I don't know about social safety net. I don't think he's talked about that at any point. It seems like he's against the social safety net whenever it actually comes up.
And he said, I'm in favor of a strong one. But knowing him, he probably doesn't know what he's talking about when it comes to the social safety net, because he's when trying to defend his liberal credentials, he'll be like, well, I believe in a strong social safety net. I'm against the death penalty and all those things.
Yeah, but this whole thing of, the fact of the matter is, when it comes to him being a libertarian, he's actually not a libertarian when it comes to immigration or when it comes to foreign trade. So he's actually kind of come out in support of Trump's sort of statements about how we should fix the trade deals, whatever that means. And he said that he's sort of had a lot of these anti-immigration people on his show, and he's talked about how he hasn't criticized Trump's immigration stuff at all, right? And if you're a libertarian, you should be for open borders, free movement of people. You should be against the sort of state regulation of immigration, because what is immigration policy besides the state regulating an economic process of immigration? It's the free flow of workers. And if you're McDonald's, why can't you hire somebody from Guadalajara, Mexico, who's willing to do the job for less money? That's what the sort of rational libertarian, position is, right? That's what he should be talking about. But when it comes to a position that goes against what the right thinks and goes against what Trump thinks, he's a complete, he just abandons whatever libertarian ideology he has. So he's not even a good libertarian. So
no.
That's why I say he's kind of just a general person on the right. Oh, it looks like someone posted my article.
Sweet.
And of course he didn't respond to that because he's a coward and a poltroon, straight up poltroon. What is this?
So did they?
The next question is this whole thing about the private insurance marketplace. And didn't Dave respond to this question? I'm just not seeing an answer.
I don't see a response.
But he did respond to it, didn't he? Did he delete his answer? I want to find, someone should, whoever is, watching this, do some research for us. Look up to see if he actually did respond to this question, because I'm pretty sure he did. So what he said, I'm just going to talk about this. What he said was that a single payer is a system where there's multiple insurance companies who compete for the business, the insurance marketplace, and the government just facilitates it, the exchange around it, which is basically the Obamacare insurance exchange market, basically, right? Or it's just, the free market, let people buy private insurance, across state lines, or just from whatever company wants to insure their medical, risk, right? And let them sell any kind of plan they want, whether it's a plan that only covers limited things or whatever. So he was so disingenuous about that, and it's such a liar.
Yeah,
it's infuriating, because when people say single payer, they mean one payer. They mean the government is the payer. That's literally what they mean. And he's able to say, I support single payer, which is multiple payers. It's like, listen to your own words, for God's sake. Do you read the newspaper? How do you not know what single payer is and what Obamacare is? So it's like just startling dishonesty, or just stupidity and ignorance.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of both.
Ugh. And I don't know, it's one of those things where it's like breathtaking how just he says things that are just, your brain just, I can't fathom what he's thinking. Okay, next question. Why do you defend Bill O'Reilly? And he says that he
doesn't. A culture of rejoicing in the public destruction of people.
Yeah, and also they're hypocrites about Bill Clinton. And this is, I guess maybe that's a fair point to an extent, but Bill Clinton did not do anything that was nearly as bad as Bill O'Reilly, as far as I can see.
It wasn't a sexual harassment case. It was just basically that he basically slept with his intern, which was just, unethical. But I mean, it wasn't to the Bill O'Reilly extent where he was straight up harassing women and making them feel uncomfortable.
Right. Well, in my opinion, if you're a very high-profile person and you do something at this point in history, a lot of this sort of stuff will come back, and a lot of women will come. Like we've seen Bill Cosby, right? A lot of women, enough women came forward and said, "Yep, this guy did this to me, and it's a pattern, and it's pretty much proven." What you have with Bill Clinton is that he cheated on his wife many times. And what we can see is mostly consensual, and he probably sexually harassed some women. And he's a guy who has, I think, his morality when it comes to his marriage and is not great. And he's a little bit of a sort of a lecherous man who's not, but he's not, serially sexually harassing people and creating a totally awful workplace. Because we have a lot of people who worked with Bill Clinton who thought he didn't realize he had this awful side to him. That he's so, and also Bill Clinton he doesn't have a job right now. He's not employed by a big network, and he's not, so I don't know. I think it's interesting that they only came out to defend Sean Hannity and Bill O'Reilly when they got public criticism for kind of pretty demonstrably awful stuff. Okay, so he answered one Sam Cedar question. I have no idea who he is. Sam never sent any snarky tweets about Dave. That's not true. And the video about Dave Rubin being stupid, yeah, well, he is stupid for one thing. That's totally
yes, he is. I mean, that's totally accurate. Yeah.
As this whole thing proves, he is stupid. And the fact of the matter is, Sam Cedar was on the same network as Dave Rubin. They're both on the Young Turks. They're both on sort of left-wing kind of radio. I'm sure he knows who Sam Cedar is. Like, I would be shocked if he didn't know. But the really ironic thing is Dave tweets out all this awful stuff about the left. He says, like, progressivism is a mental disorder. He tweets out these cartoons that portray everyone who's a left-wing YouTuber as a disgusting, psychotic, gross piece of human being. And he
just today he totally gave his endorsement to a cartoon portraying a black black activist throwing his own shit, and then another one was
it's so gross. It's
feminist slitting her wrist open. It was it's awful.
And it's like you are not very civil at all when it comes to talking about the other side. You've picked up a lot of habits from people like Milo, who are just the scum of the earth when it comes to how they talk to other people and how they treat other people online. So someone asked him, why don't you have any people who are anti-Trump, like even conservative people who are anti-Trump, like David Frum and Jamie Kirchick? Or why did you say that InfoWars gave a necessary space, or CNN gave InfoWars a necessary space? My point is people are sick of mainstream nonsense.
Jeez. He keeps going. He keeps beating that drum at the mainstream media.
The lamestream media.
Yeah, that I saw that with Nice Mangoes.
Yeah, the lamestream. It's like, dude, actually make a substantive argument with specifics about the mainstream media. Don't just like launch with these gigantic, overbroad descriptions about the media or how people are sick of it. If you actually look at a lot of the average folks in America, they're actually subscribing to Washington Post and New York Times at unbelievable rates. You know, he talks about everyone is like an alt-right YouTuber. No, and all the people who are anti-Trump are these like campus left anarchist people. I've been to a bunch of these anti-Trump protests. I was at the Women's March in DC. I was at one of the Muslim ban rallies in New York City.
Yeah.
I was at the March for Truth. And what you see these people, all of the people at the march were basically, the majority of them were like middle-class women who were 58 years old. That was like the average person. Who were probably like a lawyer or, you know, an accountant. And they're really concerned about what's going on in the country. They're not these crazy, you know, whatever.
SJWs, you know.
Yeah, it's so overblown when people talk about that. But he hasn't had any, and it's a good point this person brings up. Dave talks about how he has a lot of people on the right, but he doesn't have any people who are on the right who are from the Never Trump movement. You know, he doesn't have the Rick Wilsons of the world, the people who are really going to challenge his audience from the right-wing perspective. So, yeah, very good point. Oh, somebody asked about the Learn Liberty and the Koch brothers and how he's working with these people who are, you know, funding the destruction of our democracy and pushing a very far-right agenda across the country. You know, I mean, people like, I'd encourage everyone to read about the Koch brothers and what they've done to our democracy. And when it comes to, these are two guys who are worth collectively like $60 billion from the oil industry. And they have pumped so much money into congressional races, into campus organizations, into think tanks, into people like Dave Rubin, who then sort of push the right wing, the super far right wing line. And it really has had an effect from the judicial races across the country to state legislatures. It is a massive, and it's two guys who have this massive impact on our government, and it's totally unfair. It goes against democracy. It's corrosive to our country and our Republican form of government. And Dave Rubin is on the take from them, and he's not. You know, he calls himself a liberal, and he's on the take from the most anti-democratic conservative force in our country. So, I mean, totally hypocritical and disgusting. And he just ducks the question and says they're classical liberals. So.
All right. What's the next question?
Why don't you call yourself conservative?
That's a tired.
I actually like Ron Paul, Mash, and Lee. Oh, he likes Mike Lee. He's probably the most. It's either him or Ted Cruz, the most conservative members of the United States Senate, and he really likes them because they're. It's like, dude, you're not on the left. Oh, I don't know who Destiny is either. So that's the next question.
Some YouTuber. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, people bring up these YouTube people to me like I should know who they are sometimes. You know, it's like I feel like I'm in deep knowing who Sargon of Akkad is. You know, like I wish I didn't know who he was. I wish I could return to like the salad days of me not knowing who these awful people are. But I don't know. It's like watching a train wreck. But like someone said, I'm like the people who criticize Lacey Green. I was like, I don't know who that is. Leave me alone. Okay, next question.
Would you invite Milo on your show or something like that?
No, I see a question like you're ducking every single question here. Yeah, true. Oh, Dave, huge fan. I love your show. What do you say to your critics who say you haven't had people on the left? Okay, so his answer, I mean, this is like, I guess we're going on in circles here, but you know, he mentions these people. Brett Weinstein was on the show to talk about how the campus left sucks. So he's on the left, but he's offering a critique of the left. So, you know, it's the same reason that MSNBC has these people like Rick Wilson, who hates Trump, but he's on the right, and he's there to talk about how much he hates Trump. And people are like, yay, I don't necessarily agree with you, but you're agreeing with me on this one issue. So it makes me feel good. Like there's a guy who disagrees with me, who's validated my worldview, and I like it. right?
Yeah.
Like people are going to want, like the NRA would love a liberal who's like, I'm a liberal, but I love guns.
I love guns.
Yeah, people, they love that. So, and then a lot of these interviews you want to talk about, like Margaret Cho is not coming on there with this great thought out, perspective on economics, and she's not going to sway anyone. Like Dave Rubin has these people on and asks them these sort of boring deposition-like questions. Like Hillary Rose in her interview was so boring and so sort of lifeless. And Rubin asked these questions like, well, convince me about Hillary Clinton, or why don't people like Hillary Clinton? And it's like, you might have on a few people as like a fig leaf, but you're kind of in opposition to them. And he also he invited Bernie Sanders on his show and Elizabeth Warren. It's like, that would just be good for your audience to get a big famous person on your show. And they're not actually going to say yes. So pretty easy for you to do that. Like bring on Sam Cedar and, actually like, have someone who's a real perspective and a real take.
Someone that actually, that's been begging to be on the show and challenge him.
Okay. You get offended when people call you right wing, but isn't classical liberalism a center right ideology? Ugh. So the article included me as an extremist to the right of Breitbart. Okay, that's not true. He keeps saying that, but it's not true. I mean, I addressed this in my Medium post, but the title talked about extremist to the right of Breitbart, but it didn't say he was. So he needs to actually like read the question. Okay, so we got a question about David Clark, and of course he loves David Clark because one of Rubin's just favorite type of person is a black conservative.
Mm-hmm.
Just like Fox News loves black conservatives, he loves black conservatives, and the fact that this guy's a plagiarist and he lets people die in his prison, he doesn't seem to have any problem with that. So,
or tried to say that CNN I think it was today, he tried to accuse CNN of cyber terrorism or something like that against him or something like that, to that extent.
Yeah, CNN is ISIS, CNN is fake news. I mean, it's the same sort of arguments from the far right. Oh, so someone asked him, Dave, you often point to having guests from across the political spectrum. It seems like a point to deflect from criticism. They say like, the point of every interview is to attack the left. And I made this point. And he says, my show has a big variety of people, which I think we've been over this and over this. I mean, it's totally disingenuous. Oh, another question about the Mother Jones article. He says,
you have a legal case, apparently.
Oh, he's a legal case. He has no case. But
nope.
My favorite line, he says this a lot. I'm a free speech absolutist, but I do believe in libel law. Those are in opposition to each other, right? Obviously, if you're a free speech absolutist, obviously, I consider myself very much a free speech absolutist, and obviously there are situations where libel comes into play, and it's a pretty specific case. It's not about political speech like this. It's not about someone giving their political opinion that you are left wing or right wing. It's everyone who's like a lawyer who like looked at this tweet basically just pointed out how stupid Rubin's point was, but. If he's actually not attacked Trump for his attacks on the free press, and he's actually not necessarily a free speech absolutist when it comes right down to it. But no, someone asked about Milo. Apparently, Milo has he's been trying to get Milo back on the show. I guess he's been asking questions about pedophilia.
Ugh. How does anybody think that Milo has any kind of credibility after that?
Okay. So we actually got the single payer question here answered to some extent. It's a big question that I would want to dive into more with some experts from various schools of thought. I mean,
that's single payer, yeah.
Oh my God. Well, you know what? Dave, there's a gigantic healthcare bill that's going through Congress, which is one of the biggest stories in the news right now. This is a massive story. This is the reform of, 1/6 of the U.S. economy. This is a possibly taking away healthcare from 23 million people. This is massive story, right? And it's been in the news. It's been a top burner political issue his entire life, right? This is a really big thing. It's like, I don't know anything about it. I got to still think about it. It's like, when are you going to start, bro? It's going to pass or not in a week. Like, what's the holdup? It's funny. It's like, this is one of the biggest political issues at the moment. And he's like, uh-oh, college campuses, YouTubers, YouTube drama. It's like, you have no priorities when it comes to what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, that's just...
So, and then this repeats this just incredible line. Single payer, meaning private companies facilitated by the government.
No.
So when you talk about insurance, a single payer insurance system is one payer. One payer is paying an insurance claim. So you go to your doctor and you make a claim for, the care that, you receive, and your insurance company or the government pays, a percentage or the entire cost of your care. And a single payer is one payer. It's the government. How does he not understand that?
I think he's just dishonest at this point.
Okay. Oh, apparently he does. He does support the Civil Rights Act of 1964, but he just doesn't support it when it comes to gay people.
That's just I don't know how he justifies that.
Well, you know what? I think in my Medium post, I said he doesn't support the Civil Rights Act based on a complete fair reading of what he said in the Tucker Carlson interview he did. So I'm gonna have to go back and edit my post to accurately reflect what he said, just to be fair to him. So let me just make a note of this, because I don't want to be unfair to him. That would be wrong.
Or else you'll get the victimhood, bullshit speech from him. So
yeah, I mean, I don't need to say things that are controversial right? Because everything I say is so backed up by evidence. I don't need to push anything that's on the borderline. So next question: why don't you interview anyone who's going to be critical of you? So if it was a legit person in good faith, I would have no problem with that. Well, am I a legit person? Probably not. I don't call myself legit, but I suggested Sam Cedar. I said, Sam Cedar can go on your show in my place. He understands. He knows what's up, and Sam Cedar is he's a national radio show host. He's been very fair to Dave. I don't know, and I would debate Dave Rubin any day of the week. I wouldn't fly myself to Los Angeles to go to a studio, but I would I'd go on a show and have a live stream debate with him. I'm smart enough to do that. I can hold my own, I'm sure. Okay. Question: why do you think the LGBT community is far left or aggressive? So we finally got a right-wing question here. Mm-hmm. It's a huge problem with the gay community that used to be all about being edgy and different and free thinking. Okay. If you think that the gay community is about being edgy, if edgy includes being hateful towards other people who are marginalized in society, I mean, come on, right?
Yeah.
That's a lot of bullshit. The whole idea, I think he's like purloined that talking point from Milo.
And also, that's also straight out of the Warren Southern playbook as well.
Oh yeah, yeah. The LGBT community is oppressing right-wing gay people. Well, it's like Dave Rubin's a right-wing gay person, and he gets like affirmative action basically. He's not smart, not insightful, and a bunch of right-wingers are like, oh yeah, a gay person agrees with us. Yay, let's just give him a bunch of money. So You have an affirmative action program, Dave. So don't be so like don't feel so bad for yourself. Okay, Joe Scarborough on your show. Why don't you do that? He doesn't know about him. So why do you have Bill Kristol on your show? Yeah, he's not going to. Someone just complimenting him. Oh, someone asked him about the Ossoff race.
Oh, no.
The media really wanted this one, misspelled wanted. So they obviously have to shift tactics. I hope they will shift from progressivism and collectivism towards classical liberalism and the individual. The Democratic Party needs to be more like the Libertarian Party, which is... I mean, someone below says, oh, yeah, the Democrats need to shift to being a Libertarian Party and, get FDR, back to the FDR Libertarian.
Oh, FDR was probably slightly to the left of Sanders.
Yeah, I mean, FDR implemented all these government programs that were really interventionist in the economy. So the idea that Democrats need to become libertarian is, Republicans are more towards the libertarian side, except for when it comes to civil liberties. So that's total canard. Total canard. We need to take back the term liberal. It's not screaming or setting fires to people to prevent people from speaking. The left is no longer. This is again his stupid argument, and it's
the left's liberal.
The liberals were never libertarian. Liberal in America means left of center. It doesn't necessarily mean socialist. It means people like FDR, JFK, Obama, Clinton. It's like the mainstream philosophy of the left center is liberal. The mainstream philosophy of the right of center is conservative. These are just words. And if you use a word that's not the meaning that most people use in common parlance, flag that and say what you mean. I mean, his use of language is so deceptive and stupid. Well, someone wants Thomas Sowell, Noam Chomsky, or Ron Paul. So he thinks they might get Ron Paul. Ron Paul is a racist, crackpot, idiot. He publishes all these conspiracy theories on his website. He's complete. He tries to sell gold and survival packages. I mean, Ron Paul is the scum of the earth.
And he's also friends with Don Black, I think.
Who's that?
Oh, we're not friends, but he had been hanging out with Don Black and didn't even. Don Black is his former KKK leader, basically the guy that started Stormfront.
Oh my God!
I can send you some of it. It's pretty awful.
Well, a lot of the people who are the Donald Trump supporters, who are like the far right Trump supporters, in 2012 they were the far right Ron Paul supporters. It's kind of a lot of the same community of people who are just basically anti-establishment right, the alt-right. The alt-right loved Ron Paul before people knew what the alt-right was. Oh yeah,
they called themselves alt-right. Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's a great line here. Someone points out that all of his answers are being downvoted by the Reddit people.
He does the thing.
What is that?
It's based on the stupid joke on Twitter that autistic screeching. Autistic screeching meme. Yeah, basically.
Dave Rubin loves all these like internet culture memes that are all done by 15-year-olds, and he's 41 years old.
Yeah, and he's sitting there saying, accusing people of being autistic. That's just retarded. It's just so childish.
Yeah. He's going to do a tour to Australia. Yeah, great. Oh man, this is the same question. I'm just going to try to scroll down and find a question we actually have not gone through already.
A bunch of them are the same. I'm already down to the bottom. It's just all the same.
Yeah, I think we've broken down. I just want to mention this one. The Jordan Peterson, truly a genius. If you think Jordan Peterson is truly a genius, I don't understand you.
He's so pretentious. I mean, this is the guy that made a YouTube video called "The Metaphysics of Pepe."
I find he is so incoherent. He reminds me of like a postmodernist professor who just goes on and on in these sort of Baroque just circles of nothingness. And if you actually are trying to listen to him in a sort of fact-based way, go from A to B to C to D, and listen to his ideas, and you're not sort of one of these people who buys into sort of postmodernist woo-woo bullshit, Nassim Taleb and Deepak Chopra stuff.
Yeah.
And you actually have respect for your own intellect, that you can actually listen to somebody and see if they're making sense. I think you'll find that Jordan Peterson does not make any sense.
Well, like I said, what metaphysics of Pepe? There's nothing there. It's just a stupid cartoon on the internet.
I think this same guy like started crying because of Disney movies.
He also cried because of Christianity and atheism.
Yeah. Also, I get some Star Wars questions and bullshit like that. I mean, I don't have a problem with Dave Rubin liking Star Wars. The one thing, though, is that let me find the Star Wars question. This is really egregious. He has a point. The prequels weren't as bad as most people say. I mean, come on. He's defending Revenge of the Sith, right? It's called Revenge of the Sith.
Uh-huh.
The underlying story is so good and so deep. No, they suck. The acting is horrible. The dialogue is horrible, yes. The movies suck completely.
They were just a blatant cash grab.
There's so much CGI. It looks like crap. Like it looks like a video game. It's a horrible movie. The plot is boring and stupid, and it's like if you think like that there's like deep like political themes in the prequels, you're probably as dumb as Dave Rubin. I'm sorry. Those movies are terrible. Like I didn't see the second one because like I saw the first one in theaters when I don't know how old I was, like 9 or 10, and I realized it was a bad movie. And I've like seen the other two on cable, like snippets of them, and they're just awful. They're awful movies. Yeah.
All right.
Well, I think we've gone through his stupidity of this whole thing.
Yeah, I'm kind of fed up with him.
Yeah, but I think we've hit it all. But it's just nice talking, man. It's nice talking.
Nice talking to you. Nice to talk to you.
I think this is the end of my Dave Rubin content for a while. I think I'm going to move on. I'm thinking about moving on to Joe Rogan.
Good luck with that. The fanboys will come for you.
Oh yeah. Whenever I attack Joe Rogan, I actually get pushback. So I think maybe that's the next person to go after, because Joe Rogan you give Rubin a lot of credit for being dumb. Joe Rogan is a dumb guy, and he has a much bigger platform than Rubin does. I mean, Rogan's actually launched a lot. Like Rogan made Jordan Peterson popular. Rogan made Stefan Molyneux popular. Like if you go through Google Trends on these guys, they are really, Rogan has really become like the launch pad for a lot of these right-wing Canadian types. Gadsad, another example, and he's
a sad man.
Yeah. So, and I'm thinking about doing some anti-Rogan content, because people don't really notice him, but he is, I think, maybe the biggest political podcast in existence, possibly.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, he helped make Indianapolis pretty big too.
Yeah, and he has this like psychological hold on a lot of these like impressionable young, nerd kids and like stoners and stuff. And I have to bet that Rogan probably flipped like thousands of people from Obama voters to Trump. That's just my, theory. So that's my next target. I'm gonna Rubin. I think I've destroyed him. I'm gonna move on. All right. Nice talking to you, man. Take care.
Take care.